Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Vann. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, a life coach to women, meditation teacher, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential. What is the purpose of life? That's a big question. For some, they believe it is to live humbly, have a few experiences, and do the best they can. For others, they believe that there is a reason that we're here and that we need to leave a massive mark on the world. They believe purpose is found in their doing, while others believe that the sole purpose of life is to be enlightened. Spiritual enlightenment is a state of awareness of the world, of the true nature of oneself and the universe around us. It's a conscious act of releasing pain, suffering, fear, and the ego. In this ever-changing process, we find alignment, self-realization, and the truest self. But the question is how? How does one go about doing this, especially if life has been fraught with hardships? I sat down with Michele Blood, a singer from Australia with an international following, as she recounts the moments after a car accident that changed her path and how her voice has helped thousands transform their lives through affirmations and helped them find a way to their own purpose. Michele's story reminds us that each of us does have a purpose and that our voice creates powerful movements and that inner knowing is always there for us to tune into. So let's not waste another moment. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. So often we get into a space of mindset and meditation and affirmations and spirituality, mental health. There's so many pieces to living as a whole person, as a whole soul. And I'm excited to talk to you today about enlightenment. Can you kind of give us a background of who you are and how you got into this space? Because you have a very interesting story.
Well, I started singing professionally from the age of 5 on TV and went on to do many, many things in the entertainment industry, got a lot of bands together, but eventually got the right group together. I was the lead singer, main songwriter, manager. Got us Time Warner record labels. We were doing videos. We toured at one stage nonstop for 7 years.
Wow.
Which is very, very tough in Australia because it's the audiences back in the day in the 80s, the audiences were huge because there used to be extremely large venues that would fit between 2,000 and 7,000 people, just normal venues, clubs all around Australia. And they would have cover bands. And then so we started out as a cover band. And then we went on to start writing our originals and went on from there, toured with huge overseas bands. Then eventually bands started touring with us and they would be our opening act. So everything in my life, even though it was a tough life, I was doing what I loved to do. And I was really good at it. The guys were very disciplined. I eventually got the right road crew, everything. But it was interesting because you're making this money, but everything's going to the record label, to the agents, and to the road crew. I remember once in Melbourne, we did a gig with INXS. I'm name dropping because I can. And we all went to go and get something to eat after the gig. And Michael came up to us, to our road crew, actually, he knew not to ask us, and asked if they could buy him a burger.
Oh, wow.
Because none of the musicians have any money, but that was before INXS made it internationally. But anyway, so that's just a funny little anecdote. On my way home from a gig, actually 14-hour drive in the truck, I was with a truck driver this time. We just finished a gig at around 1 a.m. in Brisbane, packed all the gear up. We were all ready to leave by 3:30 a.m. So I went with him, and just as we were hitting Sydney, which is about 14-hour drive, he fell asleep at the wheel. And as the passenger, we went into a telephone pole and all the equipment went into me. So I was in the hospital for months and months and months and months and months. I have to sort of give you this background, ladies, so that you can understand how we can get from that to enlightenment, because it's a progressive thing that happened. While I was in that hospital, I was extremely depressed and in severe pain, unbelievable pain. When you're in traction, if anyone's ever been in traction, and I still had broken bones inside my body, you are just pass out every minute. You just keep passing out because you just, the pain is that bad. So what happened after the second operation was 17 and a half hours, so I could get out of traction at last. Wow. And people and fans were sending me positive stuff and gifts. And someone put on a little cassette player, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which had nothing to do with an Australian rock and roll female singer. I was quite young at the time, and I couldn't turn it off because I couldn't move. And but what was interesting was that, because I wasn't in that world of motivational transformation, I was rock and roll 100%, 360 degrees of my life. That was it. Writing the songs, managing the band. When you're on tour nonstop like that, your life is just full on. And plus I couldn't talk during the day because I had to rest my voice for the gigs every night. Right. No talking at all at any time during the day. So one thing that was very interesting, having to do that for years, when I finally did get into meditation, it was very easy for me to go into the silence because I was used to not talking. Interesting, huh? Yeah. Napoleon Hill's talking about his little boy who was born completely deaf. Yes. And he said he used auto-suggestion every night. He went into the little boy's room and said, "You can hear perfectly," and said all these wonderful affirmations. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I know that I have willed myself to have the success of, even though I haven't got money, the band, people think we do because we're quite successful and we're on television a lot. But so I know that I can will myself to be healed. Right. And so I said, I am healed. I know I am. I love myself. I am my friend. Over and over and over again, Danielle. Right. But it didn't work because affirmations don't work if the doubting mind throws it out. And of course, the doubting mind was going to throw it out because the doctors are saying if you ever do walk again, you'll have physical limitations. Like, one leg may even be a little shorter than the other. They were going on and on. So I stopped doing it after 2 weeks because I said, I can't emotionalize it and believe it. So it's not being implanted. My doubting mind keeps releasing it. So about a month later, I had an epiphany. I'm a singer-songwriter. You cannot get a song out of your head. Yeah. So I asked my brother and some people, go and get me some affirmation pop music, even if it's not pop music, just something positive with affirmations. There was nothing, no such thing. It had never been created yet. Right. So I got them to give me a little cassette player and I just started singing, I am healed, I know I am. I love myself, I am my friend, over and over and over again, and kept listening to it. I ended up, to make a long story short, I was still in the hospital for months, many long operations, but my attitude changed. Right. Everything changed. So by the time I got out of the hospital, I ended up going into the studio and recording tons of and writing affirmation songs, never with the intention of selling it, because that was sort of uncool. They're not really songs. Yeah. You just, where's the chorus? Where's the bridge? But just for myself and my band, so that we could get the success and everything, because I realized how powerful and fast it was. And the neuroscientists have found out now that it works 300 times faster, positive affirmations with music. Right. I still don't know anyone else who does it, but I'm sure someone by now has started doing it. But so the left side of the brain are the lyrics, the affirmation, the right side, the music and the melody. Yeah. So you have a whole brain experience and it goes directly into your subconscious mind. And all you have to do is listen. Right. And that is where my life changed, because from there, I ended up getting interviewed on TV and this miraculous healing, our little Aussie Michele. And so then promoters started coming out of the woodworks, people that they said, we want you to come and sing in between Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, blah. And I said, no, I don't know who they are. I don't do, that sounds uncool to me. And so they said, well, we'll pay you $5,000 a gig and you can sell your CDs. You have your affirmation music on CDs, right? And I was like, no, I don't sell them. And $5,000 would be more than I ever made in a whole year. Right. For me. I mean, of course, the band made a lot more. So I was like, I said to the band, guys, we'll be able to buy extra equipment, new drum kit. I'm doing this tour right around Australia. So I did it the very, very first night after the gig. I'm sitting there with 𝗟𝗧𝗏, Wang Dara, and Deepak, and I hadn't known who they were before, but I was really impressed with their talks.
Right.
And they said, look, this is huge. We've never seen anything like this. This is what we all teach.
Right.
You know, visualize what you want. Affirmations, the crowd went crazy. They were on stage dancing with you because I would have the affirmation lyrics up on top, and it was so easy for them to learn it. Right. And so, and I sold out. I bought 500 CDs, and there were 3,500 people there, and they all wanted one because I didn't expect to sell one.
Right.
So that's how I ended up touring all over the world. I gave my band 6 months notice so that they had a chance to get another gig somehow. But I knew I had to go out on my own and just do this from now on. And so while I was working with Bob Proctor and living in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, running his business as well, having hit records in Malaysia as well, nothing could stop it. So what was happening was, through doing this positive music, singing it to all these big audiences everywhere, teaching about affirmations, studying everything I could, my oscillation, my frequency was so fast that I was attracting things. Bam, bam, bam. It was just so fast.
Right.
And I had this heart glow. And I said to Bob, I've got to find out what this heart glow is. And he said, I think your heart chakra must be partially activated. Yeah. He said, because that did happen to me, because he had an enlightened teacher. And he said, you want to find someone who knows God completely and enlightenment. And so he gave me a few hints about where to go. And I went to India and Japan and everywhere you're supposed to go to find the person.
Yeah.
But I met a couple of teachers who I think were enlightened, because I could sort of feel a little bit of tingles in my head, but they didn't take on female students. They didn't understand English, and they didn't really teach. They just sort of, you just sat in front of them. And I was like, this is not for me. I want to be able to speak to someone who's enlightened and understand what it is and what I need to do to be free, because I feel so much love for the world and everyone else. Eventually, I met a fully enlightened teacher who was actually from Canada, but I met her in America, went to a gig. A friend of mine whose teacher was Mahasiddha, like fully enlightened, died. He left the body, and he had thousands of students. And my friend said that he heard that one of the students became enlightened a few years after he left the body. So he said, I think you'll be able to tell more than I can. You seem to be more sensitive if she's enlightened. We got there early, sat right at the front. She's on a tiny little stage, this beautiful young American woman, at least 10 years younger than me at the time, and just one light behind her. No, just a little iPod player, and she's, or cassette player, whatever it was, CD player back in the day. And she's talking to us about things and just sitting there. And we started to meditate with her, and she's playing this rock music to us for us to meditate with her. And I'm like, well, this is different, because I'm meditating by then and even teaching it. But I didn't, I was like, how can you silence your mind with all this going on? And she explained later that it was, to start with, she said, it's not always heavy rock music, but I do like to just give you a big spiritual kick in the ass, all of you, Yeah. And I said, oh, I'm loving this woman. But when we were meditating with her, and then after the music stopped, then we would go into silence. And she said, because then you only hear your own voice. You can't hear the rest of the world. I was tearing up, and my head was just going zoom, zoom with whatever it was. I didn't know. I found out later it's the Shakti from an enlightened teacher transmitting light, just from being in front of her. And I couldn't drive home.
Wow.
I was so out of it. All I could see was light. So I just begged to become a student, and I gave up writing, doing events, singing, everything for 10 years. That's where the enlightenment story begins.
Right. Amazing journey to, it's one thing. And, you put out names like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and these powerhouses of transformation, to be in their space and to understand that one thing that Wayne Dyer always talked about was the dark night of the soul. I actually call it the light of the soul, because it takes us into a space where we, actually physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually grow. Your car accident being the activating event for you. To know, would you have ever gotten to this space where you were singing those affirmations, where you were getting into a place where you were working towards your spiritual growth and transformation without that?
I have no idea, Danielle. I don't know. As far as I was concerned at the time, and I don't think it was the car accident that did it. It was
Okay.
the catalyst was the car accident.
Right.
But the effect was from the singing affirmations.
Right.
Because they brought my oscillation up so fast.
Sure.
No, before I thought of that, my whole thing was what we're going to do with the band next and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm getting some publicity, guys. Let's get a new album out.
Sure.
I'm going to be able to dance again. It's all good.
Mhm.
Anyway. And so that wasn't even, so it's interesting. But anyway, good question.
Yeah. So let's talk about what enlightenment is first and foremost, and then how you are using your own enlightenment to impact the world.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did not understand what enlightenment was, even though I'd read the autobiography of a yogi with Paramahansa Yogananda. It was my favorite book at the time. I read it all the time. I couldn't stop reading it. And I couldn't stop reading Play of Consciousness by Swami Muktananda, hearing about his enlightenment. So it was fascinating to me. And then I was reading Interior Castle with Teresa of Avila, and that's her. I understood it straight away, which was weird because that was her way, because everyone says they don't really understand it. Her way of describing the different layers that come off before you hit enlightenment, what actually happens to you, and her ecstasies and all that sort of thing. And I was having a lot of deep spiritual experiences. It was sort of like I kept getting a download of what it was time after time. But what it actually is, once you have experienced it, is so laughable when you realize, okay, you sort of say to yourself, well, I worked my ass off and I had a fully enlightened teacher transmitting light to me all the time. And I just meditated so much and did everything that she said. And we had to meet her in a different city each month, a different country. We just had to, I couldn't have gone back to work if I wanted to, because she would let us know a week beforehand. And if you're a minute late, even if you're in a different country, you were out.
Wow.
Very, very disciplined. So not everyone's going to do that, but nothing could stop me because I could just, I wasn't thinking I could become enlightened, Danielle, ever. Never thought that. I just loved meditating and feeling that light and loving her so much for what she was doing for the world, and seeing she used to go to Navy bases and Army bases. I went with her a couple of times to teach these young boys, really, that just came back from the war, to teach them how to meditate and transmit light. And a lot of them became her students, and they're suicidal kids when they came out. And they just changed. You just saw change, healings, everything, everywhere she went. Just absolutely amazing. But anyway, let's explain it. Okay, let's look at this. We have a body, and it has been particularly organized and put together for us to become enlightened. Every single person has the same opportunity. Along the spine is, I know you know all this, but anyway, is an ethereal tube called a 𝗟𝗓𝗔𝗥𝗡. And at the base of that 𝗟𝗓𝗔𝗓𝗡 is what we call Kundalini, which is Shakti, which is vibrating energy. And when you get to actually see it, it's just little bubbles of light that are vibrating at such a high frequency, the frequency of light. And that is there so that eventually, because the 𝗟𝗓𝗔𝗥𝗡 is always blocked. It's blocked. And so to have the chakras, which are along the actual spine, activated, they have to be activated before you can become fully enlightened, because your crown chakra has to be activated for your full enlightenment. Many people have Kundalini experiences like I did for the first few years all the time, rushing of energy up and then down again. And you think, oh, this is it. And then you're back to where you were before. It's like, oh, that was just an experience. It has to go up, stay there. It has to explode your crown chakra. Eventually, those chakras become activated. Why you feel so much energy and tingling and all this pounding almost like inside your head is because that Kundalini that she's sending, the Shakti, is going to different parts of your brain and enticing the Kundalini to come up. And, like she always said, and I totally agree, never meditate on your lower chakras. Very, very dangerous. You've got to meditate, I only ever meditated on my heart chakra because it was already partially activated.
Right.
And sometimes my throat chakra, which really isn't along the throat, it's just at the back there. And then, you know, the of course, the third eye, which is actually in between the brain. It's that little butterfly you see. And so, because when I used to meditate, just even on the belly chakra, I didn't feel it. And you want to bring that energy up, and it's going to be attracted to come up. So bit by bit, then your heart chakra is activated. That's when you start having spiritual experiences and out of body experiences, and until eventually your crown chakra completely explodes. It takes a long time. Anyone tells you it's quick and easy is lying.
Right.
Okay, so I'll give you another analogy. Everyone has enlightenment within them. Everyone. You wouldn't be able to breathe or move or be animated. You're being animated by God, by the light that is within you. So let's pretend that this diamond is your enlightenment, is your higher self, your true higher self. The reason some people are really good people, they go into visualization and practices, and they feel like they're just a hair away, a fine hair away from getting what they want. And they get frustrated because most of the time, people begin that not because of the love of the infinite, because being a bhakti, which I was, a lover of God, isn't a natural thing for everybody. So they come onto the journey, many of my students have, to get money, to be successful, because they're broke, or they're not quite broke, or they want to find a partner in their life and all this sort of stuff. And so what's happening is, so then I'm transmitting light, teaching them meditation, and their diamond, which is coded with all the experiences they've had in past lives. So that's why you can't feel. So they say the law of attraction, just think what you want. No, that doesn't work.
It doesn't.
There's 7.5 billion people on the planet blocking your this is blocked, because when this is unblocked, well, then you can speak directly to your higher self as you and give it any command you want, and it will materialize, it will manifest. But because you're in such a high oscillation, you don't do bad things with it. Although I have seen people that think they're enlightened and they think they're so psychic, they have given up their enlightenment for power.
Right. So
that's there are a few nasty ones out there, but we won't talk about them. They don't understand. They really do think they're awake, and they're not. Once this is completely cleared, and when I transmit light to my students and to people who come to me for prayer, I look at their photograph, Danielle, and I gaze their eyes, and all I feel is enlightenment. All I see is God within them. I love them so much. And I was experimenting for about 2.5 years after my enlightenment to see if it was working.
Right.
Because I didn't want to, because my teacher said, well, you can teach now. And I was, she's given up teaching now. She said, you take over. And it was really interesting because I would gaze their photograph. No one had taught me to do this. It was just something that that's when I would do the prayer. I'd always do a prayer, not for everything they'd asked for, because I'm only given, but there are certain things that I know I could pray for other people, but I'm not allowed to. Like, I'm never allowed to pray for someone to ask someone to love them.
Right.
Or to get a partner or anything like that. It's always got to be up to the higher self, which is the omniscient wisdom. Right. So when that becomes clear, then the more you get into early enlightenment, the clearer this has become. What happens is, everyone, this is amazing. There is no more thoughts of the past. There are no projections ever again into the future. Right. You are in the moment. You are in the timelessness. And the first time I experienced timelessness was about 2 months before my full enlightenment. And I was like, oh, I'd been working for 8 hours nonstop on a book, and I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel anything. I had no idea what time it was. I was in timelessness.
Right.
And it was just a phenomena. And you have no more fear, because fear is created through doubt, through projections of what you've experienced before, or what if that doesn't happen? What if it does?
Right.
Or projecting into the future, what you're going to get or what you're not going to get. And that buggers up the mind.
Right.
So enlightenment, if you want to have no more fear in your life, but even before full enlightenment, even in early enlightenment, like some of my students are in. One of my Irish students is teaching all over Ireland. It's a beautiful gift that we have been given and we've worked very hard for. And Danielle, it was so interesting to realize all those years of being an entertainer. And if you can sing in a Darwin pub while they're throwing beer cans at you and yelling out, "Show us your tits."
Yes.
if you can calm those sort of situations down, which I could always do.
Yeah.
You can do anything.
You can do anything.
So all those years of experience, then I was doing the gigs all over the world on my own, and I'd get a band together and everyone would come up and dance, which I still do. And so the event, we meditate, we transmit light, we do prayer, we do so many fun things. And of course, every hour or so, we all get up and dance and sing and do the affirmation songs. So it's pretty extraordinary experience. And I think the reason the divine chose me to be able to do this is because why would a girl who left home when she was 15, because I had a bad situation there and I was allowed to leave home back in those days, they didn't come and say, "Oh, there's truancy." No one even knew at my school that I was gone for 2 years.
Right.
So when you're allowed to do that and you go off and do your own thing, it's showing that she hasn't had that much education. But I did become very well educated over the years, just from all my reading and studying. Right. And because that omniscient wisdom comes through you, and it doesn't have to be your intellect anymore that's doing the thinking or the working out. So what happened was miracles after miracles, basically. I think it's good that if I could do it, some rock and roll singer from Australia, anybody can do it. You don't need to be a bald 90-year-old Asian man to be a teacher.
Right. That's always what I hear whenever I'm trying to teach somebody meditation. Well, I'm not a monk. Well, I don't need you to be one. We can actually do this without being, in silence all the time and living that lifestyle. So let's talk about how we do create those miracles. I know we talked about enlightenment and getting there and getting into that space, but how can we, through maybe affirmation or whatever process that you want to talk about, get to a space where we can create miracles within ourselves and our lives and reach that higher self?
Well, there are so many. I'm going to give everyone, I like to keep it simple. Kiss.
Sure. Yes.
Keep it simple and spiritual.
Oh, I love it.
Because when people start getting into, you've got to be in high consciousness to understand this. I don't know if you're ready yet. They're just full of shit.
Right.
Let's face it, right?
Yeah.
100%. Run away as fast as you can. Yes, if you pay me $5,000, I may make the transmission available to you. Run away. Run as fast as you can. Anyway.
Right. Exactly.
No, because my events I always say to people, if you can't afford to come to my event and you email me why you want to come, you come for free. Of course you can. No worries. No one is knocked back just because they don't have the price for a ticket ever. Right. So anyway, one of the things, affirmations, of course, to start with, you don't have to even like my music or my songs, but of course you will, because they're fantastic. But all you have to do, because they're fun, and you just have to listen. And even if it's like a little jingle you hear, it's like advertising agencies spending billions a year on jingles that might start annoying you.
Right.
Even if you don't like it, but you can't get it out of your head.
Locked in the subconscious. Yeah.
You can't get it out of your head. It's there forever. So is the product that they're selling. So you want the product that you're trying to sell to yourself to be a magnet to money. My Magnet to Money affirmation song has been downloaded multi millions of times all over the world. The testimonials are out of this world. This simple little irreverent song about money loves me has assisted people. Then there's a little bit more sophisticated affirmation songs like I wrote with Bob Proctor on persistence and success, still rocky and poppy, so that, and always in a nice major key to keep you happy and up vibe. Right. And so you just listen to it on your way to work or whatever. But one of the things that we created in the last 3 years, developed, because I wanted something that would work. And so I wanted an app. I knew nothing about apps, Danielle. Yeah. I'm not a techie person. But anyway, we ended up working with Holly Fuller, one of my students, and she created the app with me and Trevor and Johnny, and we worked on it solidly. It's called the Magnet to Money app. It's got every morning meditation on a different topic for you to focus on every morning. Right. There's the prosperity sleep program where you just listen to it as you're sleeping.
Right.
Tons of affirmations with music. The Magnet to Money notification song. So every hour. And all you have to do is listen. All you have to do is listen. Magnet2moneyapp.com. But anyway, so that's been released and launched 6 months ago. And people all over the world are absolutely loving that. In so many countries, I can't even believe it. And so that's one thing you can do, which makes it very, very easy, because then you don't even have to remember to put on the MP3 or a CD if you still have CDs.
Right.
Children CDs, they're round discs. You put them into a thing and it starts playing before iPods, before iPhones.
They mimic records.
I won't even tell you about cassettes. You heard me mention one before.
8-track. Okay, let's go there.
We didn't even get 8 tracks in Australia. They never took off in America. Wow. So if they didn't take off in America, Australians wouldn't have it, because they'd know if you're not successful in America, it's never going to make it globally. Anyway. And so that's what I think to start with. But then to go into visualization is also extremely important, because we think in pictures and patterns and what we look at. So I always recommend to people, create your own. My friends started mind movies and I sort of helped them launch it. But I said to them, like 2 years before they did it, that I did my own mind movie, and they got an idea from me saying that, because I would go on to this special place that had the software and I'd create my own with music and everything. But you can do it yourself. You don't have to pay a lot of money to do it. So then you get to watch a video. So, and then please find yourself an enlightened teacher. Practice, just at least begin to practice meditation. I'm going to gift you with a lot of free products today, you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So that you can watch the video on the practice of meditation, which is great if you have never done it before. And I also teach it at deeper levels for those who sort of may have done it for a long time and then stopped. Right. And they're like, oh, I don't know how, I just don't, I'm bored with it. You know? Right. I can't stop my thinking mind.
Yeah.
So that's good. There are just so many things that you can do that are very, very, very simple. One of the things you can stop doing, which changes your life 360 degrees, is stop complaining and blaming. No more complaining, no more blaming.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that sounds, okay, I'll just stop that. Right. Not so easy, my friends.
No.
Not so easy. So what I recommend, because the thing is, at an unconscious level, when we complain, we are afraid of something. We're afraid of losing something that we've got or not getting what we want. And we're in this state of a fluctuation of fear. Right. So what helps us feel better about ourselves and gain energy is complaining about someone or blaming someone else for your situation. Right. When you have created everything yourself, even though you don't understand it. When I first heard that, I was like, how have I created everything?
Right.
What are you talking about?
I didn't do this. Yeah.
And it's like the ego is okay if you've created something good. Well, see, I've manifested this. We don't manifest anything. The divine through us manifests. Right. Get out of your head. You know, if you think, oh, I'm a great manifester of parking spots, and one day you don't get one, you just need the exercise, honey. Yeah.
I always tell people, are you really that important? Exactly. And the answer is yes, but no, in some things.
Exactly. So this is what I suggest for 30 days or 21, let's say 21 days or even 7 days, try to do it. But if you can do it for 21 to 30 days, every time you hear a complaint coming in, and you'll be amazed at how many times you complain, even if it's just in your own mind, it doesn't have to be about someone with someone else. Right. The minute you are aware that you're complaining, stop. Right. Just use the word stop. And stop and say to yourself, okay, I know that there is a fear coming up. I'm about to blame someone else for something or complain about, this dress wasn't made properly, or they're not very kind to me at that restaurant, or whatever it is. It's nothing to do with anything around you. If you're reactionary to something, it's within you.
Right.
If that's the way you know if it's still within you and not someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't matter what anyone in the world says or does. If you have no reaction to it, you just respond and go, I'm bearing witness to that, but it's not affecting me in a negative way. Well, then your diamond is starting to get shinier and shinier.
Mm-hmm.
So you completely stop complaining. If you're halfway through a complaint and you stop, that is going to elevate your consciousness in so many miraculous ways. Mm-hmm. Because now you're going to look at the opposite of what you were complaining about and see what you do want, not what you don't want.
Right.
And if you can do it, I mean, the first time I did it, I complained on the 20th day, Danielle, because this is like 20 something years ago. And I started again because I was not going to do it unless and I don't remember ever really complaining after that. Or if I ever did, a red flag would immediately come up. And so if you can do that, you will realize, oh my God, I would get people to just put a little notch down every time they've stopped a complaint. And they thought that they were happy, nice, grateful people, and they realized I'm a bitch. I'm complaining about everybody, you know, especially, no offense, ladies, but look at it.
Right.
Women all of the time with their spouses, particularly, I see it all the time. Yeah, they're like someone says something, their spouse says something, they go, that's not right. It wasn't 70%, it was only about 60% finished. They didn't need to do that. And sometimes it's siblings who do it to other siblings. They just put them down and just negate what they're saying. Right. They're always contrary, but not around other people for some reason. But if you do that, that's complaining. Don't interrupt people ever. If they're wrong and you know they're wrong, let them be wrong.
Right.
It's so disempowering to the other person if you are the one who's right.
Two things that come up with that. And the first one is that you're talking about your connection to a moment and how you are really putting your perspective and your needs above what may be happening around you. So important, right? So stopping that complaint is huge. I love what you're talking about, stopping the complaint. I actually make my people write them down so they can see how many times it's coming up and what they're complaining about.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. You know, the reason Danielle does this is because she understands as well how disempowering it is to you, let alone the wall you're putting up between you and other people who are probably very, very nice people, but you just decided to complain about them.
I love those suggestions and getting into a space where we're really owning ourselves so that we can own our lives, which is really what you're talking about. When you made this move and you are, you know, creating this beautiful music, creating this beautiful movement, not only for yourself, but for other people, this sounds like a loaded question because, you know, you and I know what changes, but what should someone expect to feel, to notice, to sense as they create new change in their lives through these beautiful practices?
Well, I think the thing is that you don't really, you're not really aware of changes.
Yeah.
Unless you sort of recalibrate your last 12 months of your life and see what has actually happened. Because by the time you have that sort of positive change, things, you might still have fears come up, but really all that's happening is when a fear comes up and change is happening. But when you're about to actually make a change that you're terrified of making, you know, taking an action you're terrified of making, that is the time to have awareness. That is the time, like Bob would always say, do it scared. Because when you do something that you maybe you've never done before, or you've known you've always wanted to do it, but you just couldn't do it because your vibration is here, and the frequency of the thing that you want to have changed is here, and you have to jump up there. How do you jump up that? You jump over the terror barrier. You don't listen to anyone else. You don't ask anyone else's permission. You just do it because you want to do it. You don't need anyone else to tell you can or you can't do it. Don't ask your family. Don't ask naysayers. Oh, but if you give up that job to do this entrepreneurial thing, you know, blah, 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 blah. Don't listen to anyone. If it's within you and you want it, Well, it's yours. If you make a decision and just go for it, you just do it. You don't say for a second, but I don't know how to do that, and not do it. You end up, once you make a decision to do it, that's when real change happens. And then you realize, wow, and then another thing will come up that you may not have noticed, because you're in a space now where your vibration is higher and you can make things happen.
Right.
And attract things into your life. But then another thing, keep doing it. Keep doing things that scare you a little bit. If they don't scare you a little bit, they're not worth your life. They're not worth your life. You know, Bill Nightingale would say, you know, you're working progressively to a worthy ideal. So an idea is an ideal. It's something you've fallen in love with.
Yeah.
That you want. And when you do that, every person, place, thing, it doesn't matter if they're halfway across the world, if there's only one person who can assist you, who knows the answer to the question, they will come to you.
Right.
Because you're oscillating at a higher vibration, you don't realize there's change, but you do realize that you don't have doubts anymore. You realize that you've been recalibrated in some way, and things are exciting to you rather than scary. And eventually you go for it. And it doesn't mean that you don't fail at some things. Of course you do. I have millions of times, but your wins are so big because you're not a failure unless you give up. Yeah. If you don't give up, it's just, you've just done an experiment you tested on, and that particular test didn't work. So you do another test, just like the light bulb. What was that? 1,000 times or something? But really good questions, because people don't understand. Change is all in consciousness. It's all consciousness, because everything that you would like to have, and remember, being spiritual doesn't mean being poor. Yogananda would teach this all the time. You want to have the money that will give you freedom to do whatever you want to do. Right. So if Danielle said, tomorrow I'm going to do an event in Paris, who wants to come? You can all come.
It's really interesting, because I have seen so often where people start moving into their transformation, their healing, their movement in their life. And they think, I have to burn down the house. I have to give away everything that I own. I have to do these certain things. What you just said was so important. It doesn't mean that you have to be poor. It doesn't mean that you have to not have the luxury and life that you want to have. What you're doing is trying to create exactly what you want, not the opposite of what you don't want. You mentioned focusing on lack, which so many people do, and that becomes sort of the rhythm of their lives. What we think about is created in our lives.
Yeah. Bob and I we were going to do a really big event. It's going to cost so much money and marketing and everything. Back in the day before the internet, we have to sell all these tickets, $2,500 tickets, to get at least 5,000 people into the trade center in Kuala Lumpur. And we never thought about the money or how we were going to do it or anything else. We would just go ahead and do it. We were flying around so much all over the world with him and his wife, Linda. And we were talking about what can we do? Not what can we do to get a loan,
right,
or get money out of people, friends or anything. What can we do? What can we create that will make money?
Right.
And so we ended up going to Malaysia Airlines and pitching to them. And we ended up for 2.5 years teaching 250 of their students in Kuala Lumpur, staff in Kuala Lumpur, because Malaysia Airlines is all over the world, and they'd fly them in, and we got paid with first class tickets. So I had first class tickets for all my family and myself for years.
Right.
So there's always a way of working it out, or you can get sponsorships, and you don't immediately, because if you're immediately going, oh, I have to go into debt to do this,
right,
you're in lack.
Right.
You look at, what can I do to create wealth? What can I do that's going to be really something great? Because I was speaking to a lovely lady the other day. She was so deeply spiritual, beautiful on the inside and outside. She was interviewing me, and she's created all these books and everything. She said, yes, but I don't really push them. So I haven't made that much money from them and I tumbled her. I said, you're a spiritual being. You've written these beautiful books. I love what you do. Of course you should be so rich by now, because you're not selling yourself. It's not egotistical. You're selling your message, a message that was created through you.
Mm-hmm.
Your life changed and you started writing about it. You want other people's life to change?
Yeah.
It's just the wrong way of thinking. It's
Yeah.
like, you don't just leave it up to spirit. You tell spirit what you want and it goes before you and prepares the way.
Right.
That's how it works. You don't sit there, only God's will be done.
What's so interesting to me is I'll have people say to me, but it looks so easy. It looks so easy for you. And the truth is, it's this exactly what you're talking about, not allowing fear and doubt to take over, not focusing on what is lacking, but instead knowing that I have the ability to create whatever the hell I so choose, and I'm going to walk that path. It may not always be easy. I may actually fail, but I'm going to win because I tried and I gained, period.
Yeah. And you don't even think of failure, even for a second. And if something doesn't work, you're just like, okay, next. What's the next thing? Let's market it in a different way. I mean, the other day I was thinking of what can I create that's never been done before? And it just video book. And we've finished. We've already finished it. And it's incredible. 3 of us working on it, but it's incredible. Or if you just want to sign up for some free stuff, you just go to micheleblood.com, MICHELEBLOOD. And I'm going to send you a lot of lovely stuff too and promote you too, because I love you too.
Oh, thank you.
Together Girl, micheleblood.com/Together Girl.
Okay. Yes. Perfect.
Tons of free products, all free, just for you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. You know, my mission here has always been to teach women that they can control their lives, that they can get into a space of creation, of mental health, of physical health, emotional health, financial health, and most certainly spiritual health. And we've been taught so, for so many years, or centuries really, this is the way we do things. We don't stray from our box. We have to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. And the mission really is, all of that is bullshit. What do you want? Right?
Yeah,
what do you need?
Peace at any price? I don't think so.
Exactly. You mentioned meditation, affirmations, working with someone, anyone that you're most comfortable and aligned with. Another tip or practice that you can give to us that may help kickstart somebody in this journey.
Well, you've got to know that you have that enlightenment within you.
Right.
You've got to do it on your own, but you can't do it alone. But what you can do immediately is make a decision. Right. Just write it down. I'm making a decision right now to change my life to the positive, to be wealthier, healthier, happier. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then write down what you do want right now. Just write it down. Because once you've got this vibration from us two ladies right now, it's going to make it makes your thoughts more powerful. Right. Absolutely. So write it down. And you don't have to put I want. I now have a beautiful home in the countryside with acreage, beautiful animals all around me. It's calm, serene. I'm free. There might be 3 cars go by in a day. This home is just gorgeous. I love it. I have a studio in there. I do my sessions, and that's what I have.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. Communication is intention. Every time we communicate, whether internally or externally, we are giving the intention of what we need, want, and desire. And so the I want is great, but I have is life-changing.
You've got to do it on your own, but you can't do it alone. So don't think you're all alone, because you're not. And your enlightenment, your diamond is the same as my diamond. You may not be able to feel it as much right now. And maybe the whispers of the world put in the fears before you have an opportunity to say, I can do it. And I just, when you just next, you have a beautiful willpower. You can just yell out next, or just stop, yell out, stop, and put yourself in a different vibration. What am I complaining about? What am I doing this for? I've got to just change. Go and watch I Love Lucy or Monty Python's Silly Walks or something. You can immediately put yourself into a fun vibration instead of trying to put icing on an unbaked cake. Be aware of when you're negative. Don't just try to, oh no, I don't want to be around negative people. They're influencing me. Don't be ridiculous. That's just you being reactionary. You can be around anybody But if it's someone who's putting you down, of course you don't go near them. It's not blaming them. It's just that is not for my highest good. So sayonara. Sayonara. Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby. I love it. Oh my gosh, Michele, we could talk for the next 4 hours, and I think we would continue to learn from you. Is there one thing that we've talked about so much, but one thing that maybe we missed that you feel is necessary for the listeners to know?
Every day, every single day, say, thank you for my beautiful life.
Mm-hmm.
And at night before you go to sleep, even if you don't write it down, thank you for my beautiful life. Today I experienced joy. That person was kind to me. I experienced the ability to be able to give of myself, give of my love, give of my money, to tithe to people, to give. I'm so blessed. And when you feel like you can't get out of a depression or something, immediately go and do something for somebody else. They did these tests, psychological tests, with all these people that were in deep depression, and they had them all go out each day. They took them, the nurses and the stewards took them to different places for them to help other people, vets, etc. And within a week, I think 90% of them had no more depression, who had been clinically depressed all their lives. Because when you go out to do something to make someone else's life, and you might say to yourself, well, what do I have to give? A smile.
Right.
Help a little old lady across the street. I could be just right across the street from you right now.
You're going to get so much if you stop, I promise. It's true. Doing that space, or giving yourself the space to practice gratitude in its truest form, and really connecting to it, not just saying it because you feel like you need to say it and that's what you've been told will work, but actually sitting, honoring. I love when I do my own personal gratitudes each day, to put my hand over my heart, really activating that chakra and really being in that space of taking it in, witnessing it, feeling it, because that's when our affirmations and our gratitude really work for us, when we connect to them.
And I feel if you say the word gratitude is beautiful, don't get me wrong, I love it. But one day I realized people don't say the word gratitude. They say thank you.
Yeah.
So that hits you in a better way. If you just say, thank you for my beautiful life. Thank you. Thank you that this happened. Thank you for that.
Right.
I am grateful. You don't say to someone, I am so grateful for this cup of tea you're bringing me. Thank you. I mean, you know what?
Yeah. Except for if you're weird like me, who does say that.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. If it's a natural part of your vocab, but it never was for mine. I don't think Australians aren't as polite as Americans, that's for sure.
I don't know if that's true or not. I have a lot of Aussie friends. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're different. We don't teach people to say, have a nice day.
Right. That's true.
Good on you, mate. Have a good day. Have a good one.
Maybe less formal. How about that?
That's it. That's what I meant. Less formal.
Less formal. Perfect. Well, interestingly enough, I do actually end the podcast the same way with every person that I speak to. And it is asking you if you would share with us 3 things that you are most grateful for. It doesn't matter whether it's personal, professional, or the things that we talked about here, but I'd love to know what you have deep and genuine gratitude for in your life.
Oh, my teacher, number one, always. My enlightened teacher. Still get together with her occasionally over the phone or Zoom, because my whole life would not be what it is without her transmissions of light. So definitely number one is my teacher. And someone might say, well, God. Well, to me, she is the epitome of God, because she's a highly enlightened being and gives of herself, and made it tough on me, which I appreciate, because you've got to really want it, you know?
Yes.
And the second thing I'm really grateful for it to all my students, because they come from over 26 or more countries, and they are doing so much good in their countries and for other people. And they're so open and receptive, even if they started coming to me for something completely different. The way they've been able to grow and change and be open and receptive. And the third thing I'm grateful for is my team, Trevor, Johnny, and Holly, who've worked with me for years and years and years and years and years, that they've never given up. They've never said, no, we can't do it. It's always, you got it. And we create stuff together beautifully, no matter how high tech it is or something. We've all learned. Amazing people. So there you go.
Yeah, beautiful gratitudes. All of the things that you mentioned, from the Magnet to Money app to the affirmation music, which is the magic of affirmation power. We will put all of those things in the show notes. And of course, that beautiful link with everything free that you're offering to the listeners. Michele, what a beautiful conversation. I can't thank you enough for allowing us to feel your light, to be a part of all of the beautiful work that you have been doing for quite some time. You mentioned a name. I want to throw it out there. The late Bob Proctor. You've probably heard that name. If you can't quite place it here in the US, well, around the world, you probably know him from The Secret. So think about, how much you have done in your life and how much you have still to do. Michele, thank you for reminding us that it's always possible. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle. You're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Michele has offered some interesting perspectives and tools that each of us can use right now, from meditation, affirmations, just to thought processes themselves. No matter how your story has changed or how it moves you, your purpose is found in finding your true enlightened self. In those 5 master areas that I always talk about, this movement is there for each of us. Michele and her team were so kind to offer so many free resources. Head to micheleblood.com or our show notes to find the links to those resources. You can also find her on social media at The Mystical Experience. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you're seeking daily inspiration and additional tools and tips, you can follow me on social media at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, Clapper, TikTok, and Threads. You can also visit our show notes, my blog, or any of the resources and have individual sessions with me at getyyourlifetogethergirl.com. You can also log on to Insight Timer, where you'll find tons of free content and also a new course on affirmations. You'll find it all there. Thank you so much for being a valuable part of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.
Before you go, please, if you want to receive some amazing high vibrational success meditation, tons and tons of free products, go to micheleblood.com/links.